Today I'm joined by Reverend Jamie Lee, who is the priest in charge of Holy Hermits online community, and they operate out of Brisbane. I'm recording this on the lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So welcome, Jamie Lee. Great to have you on, and fantastic to have this conversation. So can you just begin by telling us what Holy Hermits is?
Thanks, Matt, and thanks also for having me and for reaching out. So Holy Hermits Online is a purely online Christian community. We've been born out of the Anglican tradition in Brisbane, as Matt said, but we do go borderless. So the online world is open to all. And we are also open to all. So we have people who join in for Zoom worship, fellowship over text message, phone call, Zoom call, also using WhatsApp at the moment. And we are working on our own app. So hopefully that will happen at some stage soon in the future. But so we have people who join in from all over the place to just be together as community online. And more than just access faith resources for individual faith formation, they're also able to contribute their service in different roles that we have, both at worship, behind the scenes, and also in supporting one another through prayer. So it's an active Christian community in the online world.
So can you just run through some of the activities that you do, like which ones are structured and which ones are fluid and are just happened as a result of people being in a relationship with each other?
Yeah, sure. So we gather for worship each Sunday at 9 a.m. Brisbane time, which is different for many of our folk who gather from other places in Australia and also in other countries. So for some of our folk in the States, it's actually Saturday night their time. So we join together for Sunday worship, and it's kind of structured as an ante-communion worship service. We have the ministry of the word, we hear a message, we pray together, and we also have some devotions which often pick up on the theme or also celebrate Holy Hermits. That's why we're named after the Holy Hermits. That's our main regular. Another main regular we have is our Wednesday study group. So we have that in the evenings, Brisbane time.
Now, is that conducted over Zoom as well?
Yes, that's Zoom as well. The study group is also Zoom. There is opportunity, though, to communicate over WhatsApp with the study group. So our main WhatsApp is actually the study group. So sharing of resources in between Wednesday sessions, checking in with one another. I've been really, really happily surprised by how much pastoral care also happens in there. Just people looking out for one another, praying, giving updates, that sort of thing. So yeah, the study group is actually quite big. Sometimes we have 20, 25, other times it ebbs and flows depending on what study we're doing at the time. And we usually have it run pretty much through the year with a few breaks every now and again.
So in terms of the Zoom worship that you do on the Sunday morning, how do people actually join in, and what are you experiencing as a community in terms of one of the things that can be quite different depending on the context? You know, I've watched my kids do their Zoom whilst they're doing schoolwork or university work, and basically it's just a screen full of names and nobody's faces because nobody wants to kind of put their stuff up there. How has it been working for Holy Hermits?
Yeah, there's a big variety of ways that people are interacting in our Zooms. So we generally come on 15 minutes before worship starts, and we'd have sort of our welcome space. That is usually where we check in with one another. And one of our aims is to make sure that everyone feels welcomed. So we do try and welcome people by name and just have a chance to just do a little check-in. Sometimes in that space, people might leave it later. You know, they might not join in until closer to the time when we're going to start worship. And that's often the folk who don't necessarily feel the need to be welcomed and have a chat kind of thing before. And that's fine. We're totally open to people clicking in and out as they need. That's one of the freedoms that we really celebrate as well, is that for some people, they might be joining in out and about. We've had some people join in from the park and the beach, and something might happen that they might not be able to stay for the whole service. And that's okay. You know, it's not kind of where you need to sneak in and out of a church building and try not to get caught by the welcomers and not have the priest like chase you to shake your hand. You can just click off whenever and make that choice what suits. But yeah, so we try and encourage people to come for when they can, and also come how they are. So if they are in bed in pajamas, that's great. We've actually had Pajama Sunday a couple of times where we all come in our pajamas. If they're in hospital, that's fine too. If you got the good enough Wi-Fi and a device that you can join in, come along, don't miss out. Also, we've had folk who don't feel comfortable having their video on. Sometimes they're not even named, they're just iPad or, you know, a sort of generic device name. And that's okay. Like, we just sort of, if they come during the welcome space, we welcome them and say, you know, we can't see you, and that's fine. You don't need to turn your video on. But if you did want to say hi, feel free to unmute or drop a comment into the chat. So yeah, some people do choose not to come on to video, and we're okay with that. We just try and make sure they feel welcomed and held, but also not pushed to be what they're not ready to be.
Yeah. So it's about engaging at the depth that they want to engage at. So I'm really interested about how Holy Hermits came about. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, sure. So the story goes, I was an intentional interim minister before. I had been called to be with the people of St John's Bulimba, which is a parish church in the Brisbane diocese. And it was during the first couple of months of me being there that COVID hit. So we took our ministry online, pivoted very quickly, as many other congregations did during that time, to use Zoom.
Forced
we
to.
all
Yep,
have to
we
do.
have to. Yep.
Yep, that's it. So yeah, we had a really positive 6 months together. That was my contract for the time that I was to be their locum. At the end of that contract, we had a conversation around what was next for the parish. They discerned they were ready to go back to physical worship. I wasn't quite ready to go back to physical worship, so we figured that it was better if another interim minister came in. And that conversation went really well, and that's what happened for the parish. But there was also a lot of others who weren't ready to go back to physical worship from the Bulimba parish as well. And so they wanted to explore online outreach. Through the conversations around that, we discerned that we would become a new community which extended the invitation to all and sundry online. And that's how we became Holy Hermits Online in September of 2020.
So September of 2020, did you have backing from the Bulimba congregation, or were you going separate ways at this point in terms of Holy Hermits?
Yeah, so we didn't quite go separate ways just yet. The parish was very supportive. They allowed my license to continue in the parish, because that's one of the things that's really important in the Anglican Church, is that clergy are licensed and they have kind of a host or a home to be licensed to, whether that be as a full-time priest, part-time priest, honorary priest, or even a permission to officiate priest, which is often what happens for many retired clergy. So yeah, they kept my license there, which was wonderful. Also helped to channel a little bit of the JobKeeper through, which was a really big help for us as, starting out from scratch. Holy Hermits Online didn't have really very much financial backing or anything like that. We were just going for it and asking the Holy Spirit to provide. So yeah, Bulimba was really, really generous in providing that hospitality for us. And it was as their interregnum was wearing on and getting closer to a new priest being appointed that we discerned, actually, it's probably important that we, as Holy Hermits Online, find a new home. And that's when we had the conversation with St John's Cathedral in Brisbane. Okay,
well, you got to tell us about this then, because taking a community and having it auspiced by another body, or whatever word you want to use, can be a difficult and tricky thing. So do you want to talk us through that, how that happened?
Yeah, for sure. So as part of us becoming Holy Hermits Online and really discerning that God was asking us to pioneer outreach ministry using the vehicle of technology, for folk who weren't just sheltering from COVID, but also people who for a very long time haven't been able to get to church. Physical church is just not possible or preferable. Then yeah, we kind of recognized that that was something which really needed to be a little bit geographically loose. We have members from other countries as well as from around Australia. So having a home base which was perhaps a little bit more, I suppose it made more sense as far as that open invitation goes to be the cathedral. Also, St. John's Cathedral in Brisbane has got a really inclusive and open kind of identity as a community, and they had been discerning that they really wanted to extend their own flavour and welcome to online forums. So yeah, we really found each other in that guiding that God had provided, that the cathedral was looking for ways to do online ministry. We as a purely online community were looking for a home and host where we could really set down some roots and have a bit firmer of a foundation as we were reaching out. And that's it. April 2021, we went into partnership, and that's us now.
Okay, so and then how does the mechanics of that work? Because you're not physically connected to the cathedral if you're online. So how does the mechanics of that kind of work?
Yeah, so in technical terms, I am a associate priest of the cathedral, but with special responsibility for Holy Hermits Online. So I do work part-time. I'm Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday priest for Holy Hermits Online. So it's mainly my responsibility. But one of the beautiful things that we've really grown into in Cathedral Partnership is figuring out ways that we can thread together and really begin to just gently fold things in. So one of the ways we've done that is not only am I on cathedral staff, but also all the other clergy that are at the cathedral have extended pastoral care to the Holy Hermits Online community. So if I'm not available, or if someone feels that they'd like to speak to someone that's not me, that's totally fine. I'm really supportive of that. Then they are welcome to approach any of the cathedral clergy for one-on-one phone calls or Zooms or whatever might be needed. Another beautiful thing is I had to discern early on that as I minister to and with people all over the place, that I wouldn't do physical visits for those who are local to me. As if, say, one of our members who's in New York, it's very hard for me to get to visit that person.
Well, I tell you what, though, I reckon you'd be putting in a pretty good case to go and see them face to face, though, wouldn't you?
Well, that's it. You know, yes, Holy Hermits Online definitely needs the budget to be able to travel and do all that kind of stuff, but we're not quite there for even supporting the part-time priestly package yet. So we will work towards that. But yeah, that's one of the beautiful things that the cathedral team is helping to facilitate for people who are geographically close to the cathedral, that they're able to do physical visits where that's not as available from me. So that's a beautiful thing. But also, you know, that's something we're working on.
Yeah. So just to go back to that, though, why did you actually make that choice that you wouldn't be the one who would do in-person pastoral connection?
Yeah, it was a hard decision for me. I particularly enjoyed the visiting aspect of priestly ministry before, as an interim minister, as a curate before that, as a deacon. So yeah, that was something that I did struggle in discerning, but it was something that through discussion with leadership, we just figured that it was going to be more important to have an extended pastoral care for everybody in an equal way. But then also it's a really wonderful opportunity to strengthen partnerships with parishes on the ground. You know, we're purely online, and I know some people might find that a little bit scary in the unknown, but we are not trying to replace physical gathering. We do not say that people should just be online parishioners and nothing else. So we encourage our members to actually be dual citizens, to have a relationship with their local church. And if there is a need for communion, sacramental ministry, that connection and partnership then might be something that we can work on, so that wherever we have people, not only are they perhaps joining in online, but also when there is a need, that their local parish is still open to them, and they're open to having that connection. So that was a really big decision, because, you know, I do miss doing physical visits. I miss taking communion to people and holding their hand while I pray with them. But at the same time, by doing that, not only has it kind of made things a little bit more fair and equal and inclusive for everybody, so that no one feels like, oh, because I am joining from this far away, I'm a lesser Holy Hermits Online member than those who are local to Reverend Jamie. But also there's this potential then to actually fill in the gaps that we have with parishes, and perhaps we can also fill in some gaps that parishes have with our online ministry. So it's kind of that we're all in this together. We are the body of Christ, many flavors, many parts, and we can be together in that.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for sharing in terms of that, the explanation as to how you came to make that decision and that discernment. So really interested to know who the audience is with this. So you don't have to go into the detail about the pastoral reasons why some people may want to meet online, but you know, just kind of generalizations. So who is the audience? And it's really, I think it's intriguing for everybody to understand, how is it that you actually connect with those people? Like, how do they find Holy Hermits in the first place, or how do you find them?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So basically, I would say that our community has a heart for outreach to people who, for whatever reason or situation or circumstance, cannot be part of a physical church setting. So we have a real variety of people who are already gathering from very different kind of reasonings as to why they feel like they'd like to be part of a purely online community. As I kind of alluded to before, we have many dual citizens as well. So some people who are part of a physical parish community, who some of them sometimes do suffer from bouts of illness, and they're just with us every now and again. Some of them travel a lot. And so when they're at home, they're with their physical community, but when they're away, they're with us. So we can be that second home for people as well. There are a lot of folk who have been kind of waiting for for church to kind of catch up with technology for a long time. You know, I feel like, I've had comments like, you know, I've been waiting for this for a really long time. So although, you know, COVID has represented so much for so many people and different varieties, there has been that tiny glimmer of kind of incentive and catalyst for us to, as church, go, oh, yeah, there's actually a lot of people out there that need us.
yeah. So there's that dynamic. Another dynamic that, of course, we all saw happen during the period of all the lockdowns and everything was that, you know, it was on the list of to-do things for a lot of places, and a lot of people who are in ministry and so forth. I need to learn how to do Zoom, and we need to conduct more meetings over Zoom, so as we're not wasting 3 hours driving to that meeting in a regional area or whatever, and driving 3 hours back and doing a whole day for, you know, an hour and a half kind of conversation or whatever. So the other thing that's happened, and which I'm sure, you know, Holy Hermits has benefited from as well, is that so many more people are au fait with how to use these technologies now.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And I have also seen, you know, people who have acknowledged, you know, technology isn't my thing. And I'm one of those people too. It might be a surprise. You know, some people assume because I'm on the younger side as a clergy person that I'm all over it. You know, I sleep plugged in. I'm a bit of a technophobe. On my days off, I'm like, oh, where's my phone? I don't know. Don't need it. So yeah, there's a lot of folk who, like me, have kind of entered into this community setting, not for a love of technology, but for a love of people, and realizing that technology can be that vehicle in order to connect us. And so, of course, it's worth putting a bit of time into learning it.
You know what? There's a whole heap of people who have just heard you say that, who are watching, and they are just like, I love to hear that, because they're probably in the same boat as you, you know.
Yeah.
We all kind of feel like those people who are 15 to 25 or whatever are just so far. There's just streets ahead of us. So, but how is it that you've connected with some of these people who haven't or aren't able or don't want to kind of join an in-person community? How is it you've connected with them?
So one of the ways that we connected initially was word of mouth. So for mainly people from the Bulimba parish, and then also as we've come into cathedral setting, people at the cathedral, extending the invitation to people that they know in their circles who perhaps are good contenders as Holy Hermits Online members, people who might also come into a new circumstance that need a temporary home just for a bit. So word of mouth, recommendation from those already in the know that we're here for that purpose. So there was that kind of little egg, and that's how we started. But also we've had a lot of support from the Anglican channels of communication. So the online focus, Anglican Focus magazine, they have done a lot of articles and little plugs for us here and there just to extend that invitation within the Anglican Communion.
And is that Queensland-wide magazine you're talking about, or is that just Brisbane? Or
that is a Southeast Queensland diocese kind of publication. So that's really kind of where we have been focusing, I suppose, some of our very limited resources and energy into doing that invitation sharing. And then the social media of the people who are part of our community, often they do little shares and little plugs, and the Southeast Queensland Diocese Facebook page has also been there for us in that respect as well. But that's pretty much it for us at the moment. We have got big plans and ideas and hopes that we would be able to extend the invitation even further. And hopefully with God's grace, more resources and availability for us to be able to do that will become a thing. So, yeah.
So when you're talking about the people who have connected in those ways, you're talking about existing networks of people, really, isn't it? That's the existing networks. But then you've kind of taken it one step further, because people who are part of Holy Hermits are then actually sharing content or invitations or whatever online. So that's taking it to the kind of the second level of network, really.
Yes.
And how has that gone?
Yeah, I'd say it's gone really well. Quite a number of our members also bring family members and friends that are geographically apart from them. So that was one of the joys that we also celebrated at first, that people who can't actually travel at the moment to see their family members and friends that are overseas or even interstate at the point where our borders were completely sealed off, that they were still able to come to church together. It's like, oh, hey, we're at church together. So yeah, that there was that aspect that happened really organically and naturally, especially with the permission giving that we have, which is, don't go sharing the Zoom link just on Facebook for willy-nilly, because we do have to have some online safety considerations. But if you have a family member or friend that you want to flick the email with the link to and say, hey, I'm going to be there on Sunday, if you don't have your church available to you at the moment, or you want to join me, you can. And yeah, we get folk who come on like that, and some of them then do become members. They sign up themselves. Others are just like, well, this is great. I know that when I want to go to church with mum, granddad, cousin, good friend, again, that I can be like, hey, I want to come to church with you on Sunday. Send me the link. Yeah.
Fantastic. And have you thought, because that is relationship, so that's one kind of level of connecting with people. It's another level to actually kind of, I don't know whether this is an expression within church circles or not, but, kind of cold call kind of relationships that you begin from not knowing, they're strangers. Have you thought about how you might actually do that, or is that something that's on the agenda for Holy Hermits?
I feel like that might be on the agenda, but maybe a little bit towards the end of the list of things that we've got that we'd like to pour some energy and focus into at the moment, mainly because the organic way that the Spirit seems to be providing these sorts of conversations within existing networks, but also in using the vehicles that are really available to us already. It's been working as far as, having regular signups, having people come and try us out and know that we're here for them when they need us, having people who do come and go as they need. So that has been probably something that we haven't put a lot of thought into. Maybe one day we will, but there's a few other things that I think we probably will be looking at before then. Yeah.
Well, that's great that those, the relational networks is just working so well. That's fantastic. Now, I'm really interested in this concept of, because Holy Hermits is purely online, there's a framework that I came across, was introduced to, that talks about when you're doing things online, there are three different kind of dimensions to how you can do it. You can transfer, you can translate, and you can transform. And the differences are kind of what you would do in an in-person worship service. If you're transferring that, you take what you would do in person and you do it online. The translate is more about, because you're doing it online, taking some things and doing them differently than you would do in person because you are online. And then the third way is to actually just transform the whole process in recognition that you are online. So I'm interested, how do you think that you've gone about Holy Hermits in kind of that framework? Would you say it's a transfer, translate, or transform the way that you've been doing it?
I would say that it's a translate. There's been a lot of adapting that we have done to enable us to be fully present to one another in the online space. That if it was a transfer, I feel like that's just online streaming of services, really. Exactly what's happening in the physical space is then accessible to those online as well. That's how I would interpret that.
So that's not what you're doing. That's not what you're doing.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So translate being a little bit more of, okay, well, we have our roots in the Anglican tradition. We are open to being ecumenical and have different resources from other places as well. And as we are doing what would be described as an anti-communion or prayer and praise worship service, we have a little bit more freedom as far as what we can and can't change. So we have a lot of resources that are Anglican based. We use Roots on the Web, which is actually out of the UK. They provide some really beautiful prayer resources, which are usually really well tailored to the message in the ministry of the word. We access YouTube videos for our music. So that's a very different thing for translating. And I'm talking just in Sunday worship at the moment. That's very different from translating, live music. So we go and we look for good videos on YouTube to the songs or hymns that might be meaningful to us. And music curation is something that's open to all of our members. They can send in links to videos that they found that they'd like included in worship. And as long as it's got good lyrics and a fair enough kind of quality of sound and visual, then we go for it. And the amount of resources that we've been exposed to from just having that as part of our practice is phenomenal. We're building quite a library, recordings from in-person worship spaces all around the world, things that are recorded purely for online, amazing videograph kind of, even animation videos that are created purely for online worship content. So yeah, there's a huge variety. So I would definitely say we translate. That's one of the ways that we've done that. But also, like translating, we have to be intentional because we are online. So the way that we relate to one another, and I'm really looking forward to our app coming, because that will enable us even more to form those relationships outside of our Zoom gatherings, because we have to be intentional about that. There's no bumping into one another in the car park. We have to really translate that fellowship into a way that it's meaningful, and it does allow us to do discipleship and growing in our faith together.
So what will the app actually add?
Okay, so the app is going to be set up through the Tisely platform. So that's where our database is kept, that's where our website is generated from, and that's where our send outs and our communications are sent from. So the app will automatically feed in to have all of that information accessible to our people. It will enable people to chat. So we do use the WhatsApp at the moment for those who have shared their mobile number and contribute in that way. But the app will enable us to each have a login. Then we'll be able to look at the different groups. So whether that be the study group, or whether that be the prayer group, or whether that be the Hermitage care group, or whatever it is that we would like to be part of and contribute to, we can join that group in the app, and that will be a way for us to communicate in between our Zoom gathered sessions.
So basically, it's just experimentation. Try and transfer, translate, transform as much as you possibly can to work through stuff to actually see what works and see what meets a need.
Yeah, and it's casting the net on the other side of the boat. I like saying that. We're called to fish for people.
Yeah. People
have been swimming in different ways for many years now. The church has been carrying on throwing the net on the same side of the boat. Well, we're just experimenting what it means to fish on the other side, where Jesus calls the disciples, hey, come fish on this side, try again. Well, we're trying.
Yeah. Try something different, try something new.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Thanks very much, Jamie Lee, for sharing all of that. That is really inspirational in terms of the adaptation, the casting the net on the other side of the boat, and recognizing that there are lots of people who in-person church can be a barrier. There can be a barrier for people to get there. Some people need and prefer to actually meet online, and if there can be a sense of community, an experience of community that is actually developed within that space, that is a wonderful thing. So congratulations, well done on your work. It's so fantastic to hear that you've actually kind of found your sense of call, and then actually found a way where you can explore that deeply with a group of other people. That's fantastic. So we wish you all the best in the future, and thank you very much for sharing your time with us. It's been lovely to chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.